You are washing the dishes, you are thinking about nothing in particular, and then it arrives, an image, a connection, the answer to a question you never consciously asked. Something from 40 years ago surfaces and suddenly matches something from last week. You call them pings. They come like signals from somewhere you cannot name. This video is about what they are, why they come, and what the seer is supposed to do with them. Welcome to Power and Myth. If you are an INFJ, you already know precisely what I mean. You have been in the middle of something mundane, folding laundry, driving a familiar route, standing in the supermarket, staring at cereal boxes, and without warning, without asking, your mind delivers something. A fragment, a realization, a connection between two things that should not connect but somehow do. It arrives fully formed, often without language, sometimes as pure knowing. You did not summon it. You were not trying to solve anything. But there it is, insistent, undeniable. And when you try to explain it to someone else, when you try to trace the logic of how you arrived at this knowing, you cannot, because there was no logic. There was only the ping. Most people do not live like this. They think in lines. They gather information, process it consciously, and arrive at conclusions through visible steps. But the INFJ mind does not work in lines. It works in lightning. The pings are not thoughts, they are arrivals. They come from the place Jung called the collective unconscious, the ancient library, the storehouse of every pattern humanity has ever lived. And the seer has always had access to it, whether they wanted it or not. This is not a skill you developed. This is what you are. You are the one who receives transmissions from the depths, whilst everyone else is focused on the surface. And it is exhausting, because no one believes you when you try to tell them what you know. And half the time, you do not believe yourself. Here is what the pings actually are. They are pattern recognition operating at a speed your conscious mind cannot track. Your intuition has been absorbing everything. Every micro-expression in a conversation 3 months ago, every slight shift in tone, every inconsistency between what someone said and what their body betrayed, every historical echo, every mythic parallel, every structural similarity between this situation and 100 others you have witnessed or read about or absorbed through some process you cannot name. And then, when your conscious mind is occupied with something irrelevant, when you are not trying, when you are just existing, your unconscious makes a connection. It sees the pattern, and it sends up a flare. That is the ping. It feels like intuition because it bypasses rational thought entirely. But it is not magic. It is your mind working faster and deeper than you can observe. Jung understood this. He called it the transcendent function, the part of the psyche that synthesizes conscious and unconscious material into something new. The pings are messages from your own depths, and the tragedy is that you have been trained to dismiss them. The first thing you learn as an INFJ child is that no one wants to hear about your pings. You are 7 years old, and you tell your mother that your teacher is sad about something no one knows about. Your mother asks how you know. You cannot explain. You just know. You saw it in the way she held her coffee cup during break time. You saw it in the half-second pause before she smiled. Your mother tells you that you are imagining things. 2 weeks later, the teacher's husband leaves her. You were right, but you have already learned not to say anything next time. You are 12 years old and you tell your friend that another friend is lying about where they were last weekend. You cannot prove it, you just feel it. The story does not match. Something in the cadence was off. Your friend accuses you of being paranoid, of inventing drama. A month later, the truth comes out. You were right again. But by then, you have learned to keep the pings to yourself. You are 17, and you know your parents' marriage is ending before either of them admits it. You can feel the structure collapsing. You see it in the way they avoid each other in the hallway, in the forced politeness at dinner, in the silence that has replaced argument. When you mention it, they tell you that you are being dramatic. 6 months later, they announce the divorce. You were not surprised, but you stopped trying to warn anyone years ago. This is the seer's inheritance, to perceive clearly, to know accurately, and to be called crazy, paranoid, overdramatic, too sensitive, too much. The pings do not stop coming just because no one believes them. They arrive regardless. And so you learn to carry them alone. What makes the pings particularly difficult for the INFJ is that they often arrive without context. You do not know where they come from or why they are coming now. You are sitting in a meeting and you suddenly know that the person across from you is about to resign. You have no evidence. They have given no indication. But you know. And 2 weeks later, they hand in their notice. Or you are talking to someone you have just met and you suddenly see their childhood, not literally, not in detail, but you perceive the shape of it, the loneliness, the performance, the wound they have built their personality around, and you cannot explain how you know this because you should not know it. You have known them for 20 minutes, but the ping arrived, and with it a certainty. This is what the seer carries. The knowledge that comes too early, too suddenly, too completely to be trusted by anyone who is not there to receive it. And so you learn to wait. You learn to keep the knowing quiet until reality catches up, until the external world confirms what your internal world has already mapped. And by then no one remembers that you knew first. They just think you are perceptive. They do not realize you were watching the ending whilst they were still enjoying the beginning. The pings are not always about people. Sometimes they arrive as solutions. You have been struggling with a problem for weeks, a work project, a creative block, a decision you cannot seem to make, and then you are in the shower and the answer arrives, complete, inarguable. You did not work toward it, you did not think it through. It simply appeared, as though it had been waiting for you to stop trying long enough to receive it. This is what Archimedes experienced when he shouted Eureka in his bath. The solution was not in the bath, it was in the stopping, the moment of release when the conscious mind steps aside and the deeper mind can finally deliver what it has been assembling in secret. The INFJ lives in this territory constantly. You solve problems you were not consciously working on. You write sentences that surprise you because you did not know you knew them until they appeared. You make decisions that feel inevitable even though you cannot explain the reasoning. This is not carelessness. This is trust. Trust in the part of you that sees further than your waking mind can follow. But the world does not reward this knowing. The world wants you to show your working, to explain your process, to justify your conclusions. And you cannot because the pings do not come with footnotes. Here is the shadow side that no one talks about. The pings do not only bring insight, they bring dread. You are lying in bed and a thought arrives. Something is wrong. You do not know what, you do not know where, but the feeling is undeniable. A loved one is in danger, or a situation you thought was stable is about to collapse, or someone you trusted is lying. The ping does not tell you what to do, it just tells you that something is coming, and you are helpless. Because what are you supposed to do with a knowing that has no evidence, no timeline, no actionable detail? You cannot call someone at 2 in the morning and say, I have a feeling. You cannot intervene in a situation based solely on intuition. And so you wait, tense, braced, carrying a foreboding you cannot explain and no one else can feel. And sometimes you are wrong. The dread was a false alarm. Your intuition misfired, but more often you are right. The thing you sensed arrives. And you are left wondering whether you could have prevented it, whether you had only spoken up, whether anyone had listened. This is the seer's torment, to perceive the future and be powerless to change it. Cassandra knew this. She was given the gift of prophecy and the curse of never being believed. Every INFJ understands. The pings arrive, you speak, no one listens. The event unfolds exactly as you saw it, and by then it is too late to stop it. The other shadow is this: the pings never stop. You cannot turn them off. You cannot choose when to be intuitive and when to just exist without the constant hum of incoming information. You are at a party perceiving everything. Who is pretending? Who is unhappy? Which relationship is breaking? Which person in the room is lying about something significant? You did not ask to know this. You did not consciously observe it, but the pings keep coming, and with them the knowledge, and it is unbearable, because you cannot unknow what you know. You cannot unsee what you have seen. You are the one at the gathering who is exhausted before it even begins, not because you are socially drained, though you are, but because you are doing twice the work everyone else is doing. They are having a conversation. You are having a conversation, while simultaneously tracking every micro signal in the room, every unspoken tension, every hidden grief. The pings do not care that you are tired. They do not wait for permission. They arrive, and you carry them. This is why the INFJ needs so much solitude, not because they dislike people, but because people generate pings, and the pings are relentless. And sometimes you just need silence. You need a space where nothing is asking to be perceived, where you can stop receiving and just be. And yet, here is the gift. The pings are also the source of everything beautiful you create, everything meaningful you offer, everything that makes you unmistakably you. When you write, the pings deliver the sentences you did not know you had. When you counsel someone, the pings tell you what they need to hear before they have finished speaking. When you make art, the pings guide your hand toward the thing that will resonate, the image that will land, the truth that was waiting to be spoken. This is not a conscious skill. This is a collaboration with the depths. You are in partnership with something larger than your waking self, and that partnership produces work that feels like it came through you rather than from you. Other people spend years learning what you seem to know instinctively. They study body language. You just read it. They analyze narrative structure. You just feel when a story is working. They workshop their intuition. Yours simply functions. This is not arrogance. This is an acknowledgement. The seer does not choose the gift. The gift chooses the seer. And the work is learning how to use it without being destroyed by it. So, what are you supposed to do with the pings? How does the seer live with this constant influx of unsolicited knowing? The first thing is to stop apologizing for them. Stop prefacing your insights with, "This might sound strange," or "Maybe I am imagining this," or "I could be completely wrong." You are teaching people not to trust you. You are undermining your own knowing before anyone else has the chance to dismiss it. The pings are not guesses, they are perceptions, and you do not owe anyone an explanation for how you perceive. If someone asks, you can say, "I notice patterns," or "I have a strong intuitive sense about this," or simply, "I know." You do not need to justify, you do not need to prove. You are not on trial, you are reporting what you see. And if they do not believe you, that is not your failure, that is their limitation. The second thing is to learn the difference between a ping and anxiety. This is crucial. Anxiety feels like dread with no direction. Spirals. It catastrophizes. It feeds on itself. A ping, by contrast, arrives clean. It is specific. It does not spiral. It simply lands and then waits. If you are lying awake at 3 in the morning running through every possible disaster, that is not intuition. That is your nervous system in overdrive. But if you wake at 3 in the morning with a single clear thought, call your brother, and you do not know why, but you know it is true, that is a ping. Learn to distinguish between the noise of fear and the signal of knowing. The seer's work is discernment. Not every thought is a message, but some thoughts are, and you have to learn which is which. The third thing is to keep a record. Write the pings down, not because you need to prove yourself, but because the pings often arrive before you have the context to understand them. You have a sudden image of water. You do not know what it means. You write it down. 2 weeks later, you are offered a job near the coast, and the image suddenly makes sense. Or you have a flash of a name, someone you have not thought about in years. You write it down. A month later, they reach out. The pings are not random, they are orienting you. They are preparing you for something your conscious mind has not yet registered, but if you dismiss them when they arrive, you lose the thread. Keeping a record allows you to see the patterns over time. It teaches you to trust. It shows you that you are not imagining things, you are perceiving things. And that perception has been accurate far more often than it has been wrong. The fourth thing is to find your people. Not everyone will understand this. Most people live in a world where intuition is a nice to have, a bonus feature, something they consult occasionally when logic fails. For the INFJ, intuition is not optional. It is structural. It is how you navigate reality. And you need to be around people who do not pathologize that, who do not call you paranoid when you sense something is wrong, who do not demand receipts for your knowing, who simply say, I trust your read on this. Those people are rare, but they exist. And when you find them, you will feel the relief of not having to translate yourself constantly. You will feel what it is like to be believed, and that changes everything. The seer has always been a solitary figure. In every myth, in every fairy tale, the one who sees lives on the edge of the village, not rejected, simply alone, because the work of seeing requires distance. It involves separation from the noise, and the pings are the proof that you are doing that work. They arrive because you are paying attention at a level most people cannot sustain. They arrive because you are open to information others filter out. They arrive because you are wired to perceive the invisible. And that wiring is not a malfunction. It is an inheritance. You are part of an ancient lineage, the oracles, the mystics, the wise ones who lived at thresholds and spoke what others could not yet see. The pings are not making you strange. They are confirming what you have always been. And the work now is not to become normal. The work is to honor what you are, to stop trying to explain yourself to people who will never understand, to trust the signals, to follow the knowing, to let the pings guide you even when you cannot see where they are leading. If the pings have been arriving uninvited your entire life, if you have learned to carry your knowing in silence, if you have been called too much or too sensitive or paranoid simply for perceiving what was actually there, you are not alone. This is the territory we explore here at Power and Myth. This is what it means to be the seer. And if something in this video named what you have experienced, but never heard spoken aloud, tell me in the comments. Which ping did you receive that no one believed? Which knowing did you carry alone? Subscribe if you want to keep walking this path together. You are part of something here. The pings are not a burden you bear in isolation. They are the inheritance of everyone who has ever stood at the threshold and seen what was coming before it arrived. Until next time, find your power, know your myth.